speaker today, and I want to read her bio because I can tell you a lot of funny stories and a lot about her, but this is more business related. Joanne is a widely recognized expert in aligning teams to perform with purpose. She has honed her skills in Fortune 500 companies such as Verizon and IBM, where she led large projects with team members from all around the world, steering them through the process from project initiation through completion. In addition, Joanne has consulted with small businesses, designed business and people structures for organizational effectiveness. Joanne has extensive experience in leading global virtual teams and has demonstrated leadership with diverse work teams. She has more than 20 years of experience in the corporate environment with strong focus on IT and telecommunications. She is currently working with Asurion, leading the program office for an enterprise-level strategic software development program. And the thing she's here for today, she's a professional speaker and author. Make your job great, how to step up, own your own space, and get your boss off your back. That was one that kind of caught my attention. And the best-selling book, Diamond from Within, which, that's me. So with all of my wonderful thanks for coming today, she also helped us get our CIO Asurion for our CIO panel last month, but help welcome Joanne Acton.
So picture this, if you will. It's Monday morning, and I'm sitting at my desk, and I'm a nervous wreck because I'm dreading the phone call I know I'm going to get. And sure enough, the phone rings. Virginia wants to see you in her office right away. Now, Virginia's my director, and I'm a 20-something kid, hadn't been on her team for very long, far enough down in the org chart where I've never even met the woman. I didn't know anything about her except one thing. One thing that everybody had warned me about, which was, you don't want to get on her bad side. Well, it didn't take me long. There I was. So I go into her office, and the questions start. And what had happened was, over the weekend, I had run something in production that locked up every single office around the country at the same time. And so Monday morning, she wanted to know why, and what happened, and what did you do about it, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. 20 questions. So I just talked and explained myself, and when I was done, she was quiet. And while she's quiet, I'm thinking, please don't fire me. And the words she said to me next have impacted me for the rest of my professional career. She said, if I can get this to work, I'll just do it from here. The only people who don't make mistakes are those who aren't working hard enough. So she taught me a lesson that entrepreneurs learn early on, and corporate people sometimes never do. And that's this concept that there's no such thing as failure. There's only lessons to be learned. And she gave me that gift early in my career. So you heard from Randy who I am and the introduction that he read from you, but this is what it boils down to. I've been in technology for a very long time. I've worked in really big companies and I've worked in really little companies. What I found was that there are an awful lot of people in technology who are not happy with their jobs. And sometimes it's them, but a lot of times it's leadership. And what I resolved to do in my career was to get to be a good leader. And I'm still on that journey. When I started out, I was horrible, completely in over my head. Now I'm at the point where people will say things to me like, you know, I'm really glad you're my boss. I just recently had an experience where an entire department said, hey, can we have a reorg so we report to you? It's like, that's pretty cool, right? To get to that point. So over the years, I've learned some lessons, and those lessons are things that I'm hoping that I can share with you this morning. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm going to keep walking back over here to do this. So I'm going to kill a sacred cow right from the beginning, the one where you're supposed to be able to do everything, right? No. Do less. Do less. If you are this person with a stack of work on your desk, eating fast food during lunchtime while you're working on your computer, living on coffee to keep you going, that is not the person you want to be seen as. If you want to work on yourself and leadership development and being seen as a leader in your company, this person is not that person. That's not who you want to be seen to be. This is a person who is an individual contributor who's trying really hard to keep up with everything. This is not a leader. If this is you, start thinking about what are you doing and what do you need to do less of. You've seen this expression before, right? When you've got a pile of work in front of you and everything's a priority, then nothing is. You all know this, but what are you doing about it? In technology, if you walk down the aisles and you talk to people over and over again, it's too much work, too many hours. I had a guy the other day who was a very senior person in the company said to me, "When do you have time to read?" "I don't have time to read." You have to make time to read. So what I would challenge you to do is to really spend some time thinking about, you will never catch up, you will never get everything done. What you have to do and what your job is, especially if you want to be seen as a leader, is to figure out what are the outcomes that you most need to deliver. What are the things that will move the ball forward that are most important, and how do you take all of those other things and they either get delayed, they get thrown out the window, never get done, or they get given to someone else. So I was talking to Meg before the session this morning, and one of the thoughts that I had shared in a previous presentation is one I do all the time, which is every day I spend a few minutes and say, what are 3 things that I have to do today for today to be successful? And sometimes I do it the night before, but most often I'll do it in the morning because that's when I am freshest. And I will think about what are those 3 things. And I write those 3 things down, and at the end of the day, if I can cross off all 3 things, then my day is successful. And once I get those done, then I can do anything else. Then I worry about what other people want, the emails, the phone calls, all of the other projects, the things on your to-do list. But it's about prioritizing the outcomes that you are responsible for, the things that you have to spend your time and your energy on. And if you can spend some time doing exactly that, then you will be starting to portray yourself as someone that actually is delivering some business value. And at the end of the day, that's what you need to do. All right? So I'm going to spend a few minutes on building your brand, and everyone thinks they know what branding is, right? And branding is not, your brand is not what you think it is. Your brand is what everybody else thinks it is. Your brand is what everybody else thinks of you. So you have to be extremely intentional about building this. You want to look at results. What are the results that you want to be known for? You are the person that did X. Right? What is that thing that you want to be known for? And be very intentional about what that looks like. And it's not busy work. Right? It is actually, like I said, delivering some outcomes. The other piece of it is attitude. Are you the person that will shoot down new ideas with, oh no, that'll never work? Or are you the one who says, you know what, let's go figure out how we can make that happen? Are you the person who's complaining because you have too much work to do and you can't possibly get it all done? Or are you the person who has that attitude of, okay, let's go figure out what we need to do? It's all about your attitude. It's all about, are you the kind of person that everybody else wants to work with? Will they seek you out as someone that they want to partner with? So what is the attitude that you're presenting on a daily basis? And this is one where your personality and your stress of the day can overrule what you intend. So watch yourself and watch how you react. So networking. You guys are all in the world of networking. You probably know more people than I do or have ever known. You understand it, but do you really? Take it back into you and your career development inside the company you're in. Who are you networking with that's going to help you with your career? So who are the people who will help you get things done? Who are the people that you can partner with when you have a problem and you need somebody to reach out to for advice? Who are those people, and are you networking with them? And drive, it all drives visibility. Visibility up into the right senior leadership ranks, the visibility of the people who will help you get ahead. And inside a company, that's always a couple of levels up from where you are. So a lot of people make the mistake of, well, my boss knows what I do, and my department knows what I do, and I'm, the go-to person inside my department. But your boss isn't the one that really counts when it comes to getting you promoted and moving up the ranks, is he? So what I mean is, so if there's someone on my team, let's say Joe's on my team, and I want to get Joe a promotion, chances are I'm going to have to go to my boss to get that approved. It's not just me who has to make that decision. So if Joe was smart, Joe would make sure that he's visible to my boss. Because if I go have that conversation of, you know what, I really think Joe deserves a promotion, and my boss says, Joe who? That conversation's not going to go so well, right? And the further up you go, then it becomes more of a committee of people who have to have an opinion on whether or not you're ready for that next level. And so when you network, you want to network not only with your boss's boss, but peers of your boss's boss. And you're not going to go and be obsequious and try to figure out how to make yourself this great person. You just want them to know who you are and what you've done. You want them to recognize your name and recognize your value. And that's a fine line that you need to draw when you're having those kinds of conversations, especially at senior leadership level, of how can you make yourself known to them in a positive manner of someone that actually is a person that they will endorse when that conversation comes up about getting you to that next level. Does that make sense? So getting help. We have a lot of people who think that they have to know everything. That if I go ask for help, then I am not going to be perceived as someone who knows what they're doing. It's the exact opposite. If you go ask for help, chances are you'll get it. And what will happen is you'll get whatever it is you're trying to work on, you'll get it done faster and better than if you tried to do it by yourself. And what matters at the end of the day? Results. So go get the help. I could go read a whole lot of books and go figure out how to do something, and that will take me a long time, or I can ask somebody. And I don't know about you, but I have never reached out to someone to get help and been turned down. Has anyone been turned down? No. People will help you. You just have to ask. And sometimes it's just your own ego that gets in the way. So think about when you're working on something and you don't know what you're doing, who can help you? I was put into a job where I knew I was over my head, had no idea what it was that I needed to do. Okay, let's go figure it out. Who do I need? Who's done this before? Where can I get some advice? And build those relationships and get that help. And we did it, and it was great, and it was successful. But you have to push your ego aside and think about who is it that can help you and what do you need. Now this is my favorite topic. This is about helping other people grow. And I will tell you that in technology in particular, this is the one thing we do the absolute worst job in. We have, like, Joe's entire company is built on helping technology people learn how to be better leaders. Learn how to turn your attention from the thing to the person who has to build the thing. How do you help people grow? And so if you want to differentiate yourself as a leader, do this one thing. Just this one thing, because there's not enough of it out there. So here's what I mean. For you to help someone grow, you have to understand them. You have to take some time and learn what they're good at, what they're not good at. What do they like to do? What don't they like to do? What motivates them, what doesn't? And what are the things that they need to do to be successful in their career or the next level up for their career? And what you'll find when you spend some time doing this is you will build a lot of loyalty. Whether these people work for you or not, it doesn't matter. You will build a lot of loyalty and goodwill in the organization you're working with. But you'll also find ways to delegate things that you don't want to do. So I had a project manager who really wanted to learn budgets, SOWs, invoicing, vendors, and all of this stuff that really drove me crazy to be working at that level of detail. I didn't like it. It's like, oh, you want to learn it? Cool. Come on over here to this meeting. Let me introduce you to my finance person, to our staffing people, to all of these people, and let me help you learn it. And then I don't have to do it anymore. But to her, it was helping her grow. To me, it helped free me up from something I didn't like to do to go spend my time on something that I was better at. There's another example of a woman who worked for me, worked from home 100% of the time because her eyesight was severely limited and she had special equipment at home. couldn't come into the office even if you wanted her to. Now, in that particular role, I had a meeting on Monday nights at 5 o'clock with all of the VPs in the company where they talked about all of the projects and all of the active releases, and that meeting went on for hours, starting at 5 o'clock on Monday night. Shoot me now, right? And it was all talk. It was all about where are these projects, what's the status, blah, 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 blah. Nothing actually turned into action. And anyone who knows me, I'm an action person. I want to go, what is the next thing I need to do? I'm really not good at just talking a lot about stuff, right? What is the next thing I need to do? So this woman, so picture her situation where she's at home. She's working specifically on projects from home. She knew all about these projects, and in her role she cared about them, but she had no exposure or visibility at the VP level. And she loved that meeting. She thrived on being able to be in a forum like that with VPs across the company. I was like, really? You like this? Done. You are now our official delegate to represent our department every week, and I empower you to make whatever decisions need to be made. Done. I don't have to go to this meeting anymore. She was ecstatic. So how many more situations are there like that, where you work with people on a regular basis who want to do something, don't know how to get exposure to actually get some experience in that area? You're doing it and you don't even want to. How do you figure out to connect the dots so that you can help move those people into a better place? Well, at the same time, you're moving yourself into a better place and adding more value to the company at the same time. Right? And it's all about having these kinds of conversations with people, all about getting to know them and what it is that they want and how can you help them. On the flip side of that, you have to help yourself. And the way you help yourself, one of the ways you help yourself, is get yourself a mentor, or many mentors. Mentors come in a lot of flavors. There's these capital M mentors, which are the people where you've got a really formal long-term relationship with, and they know you, and they're vested in you, and they spend a lot of time with you. Those are hard to come by. Very hard to come by. Those evolve over time. But what you can find is a whole lot of what I call those lowercase m mentors. People who will help you with situations. People who will help you with specific problems that you're working on. People you can go to for advice about one specific area. And how many of those do you have? You should have dozens. And you should know people who are good in specific areas and that you can bounce things across and get some advice and get some experience from them on. But I will tell you, so the one thing you want to do is have at least one mentor inside your company, and that's a person who will show you the ropes on how to get something done. Every company's different, every culture's different. How you navigate the waters and who are the real influencers, who are the real decision makers in the company, isn't always obvious. So when you can find a mentor in the company that will help you explain how to get things done, all right, that's worth its weight in gold. So I want to talk about perspective. We're all smart people, right? We're all very smart people, and we think we know what we're doing. But here's an example where maybe it's always better to have somebody else's point of view. So this picture on the left is one that I was going to use on the front cover of my book, right? And so where that came from was this picture on the left here, where I cut out the picture of the woman and put it in front of an office building, thinking, great, she's in front of a building jumping for joy, right? Great perspective. Well, luckily, I put this out on social media and got some feedback from my tribe. And what most people said was, it looked like she just jumped out of the building. So the name of my book, Make Your Job Great. I probably didn't want a suicidal woman on the cover, did I? And that's all about getting somebody else's point of view. So ask. You'd be surprised what answers you get. All right, so permission. As we grow up, we're taught you have to get permission from your parents, your teachers, from all these authority figures before you do anything out of the norm, right? Go ask your mother, go ask the teacher. get a permission slip signed. When you get into business, you need to start pushing this aside. And I'll tell you what, with as many people who come to me with this, Joanne, will you mentor me? 90% of the time, they really don't need mentoring. They need permission. They come to me with a problem and say, how should I handle X, Y, Z? And I'll say, how do you think you should handle it? And they'd answer me, it's like, so what's stopping you? They need permission. They're looking for someone to give them permission to step out of their comfort zone. And that's the thing that we all need to do, is to learn how to step out of our comfort zone. Now, it goes back to what I said earlier about that lesson about failure. The reason people who are afraid to step out of their zone is they're afraid of failure. But if you turn around and say, you know what, it's not failure, I'm just going to go learn from this. So I read a long time ago from Jack Welch in GE, one of the things he said was, when I get ready to make a decision, I think about the worst possible thing that can happen. And then what will I do about that? And can I live with that? And that's a great way to look at areas where you're uncertain. Okay, if I do this, what's the worst that can happen? And can I live with it? What do I do? I had a woman come to me just the other day saying that there was something broken on this one particular project, but it wasn't her place to say something. What? You're on the team. You're all trying to get the same project done. Why isn't it your place? Of course it's your place. You're all trying to achieve the same goal. And if you're afraid to say something publicly about what needs to be done, then go to the project manager and tell them, so that somebody knows and it gets addressed. But there's a lot of angst out there about stepping out of your place. And I'll tell you that that's probably never been my problem, right? I tend to do that a lot. But it doesn't fail me. It doesn't fail me. And where the focus I have a lot with people isn't so much on getting them to do new things, it's getting them to let go of their own barriers. And so the one thing that holds people back more than anything isn't usually something external, it's what's up here. All right, so if you ever heard Kate Herman from the National Business Journal talk, she talks about women and it's not a glass ceiling, it's a sticky floor. It's you holding yourself back, right? Give yourself permission. So, an area where we need to spend a lot of time is managing upwards. And it's amazing to me how many people don't do this. So what I found over the years is that when I go speak to my boss about something that I need, or just to learn more about what he or she needs, the thing that I find out is they're a human being. They make mistakes, they don't know everything, and most of the time, they want to hear your point of view. Most of the time, they are so busy working on things that have absolutely nothing to do with you, that your problem isn't visible to them. And when you need that help, make it visible. Bring it to them. I've gone to the CIO at Asurion, where I'm at right now, and said, hey, you know, I need some help with this, or that, or whatever, and it's always been well received. And sometimes the result isn't exactly what I was after, but it can be the right result. And maybe I just didn't see it. It goes back to that perspective, right? Someone at a different level in the organization sees it from a different point of view. So it's really about stop worrying about my boss wants this, my boss wants this, my boss wants this, and figure out what your boss really needs. What are they being held accountable for, and how are you helping them get that done? Because when you change the conversation to that, then all of the angst and the fear and all of that just goes away, because now you're partnering and now you're helping. So it's a different conversation. So think about what you need from your boss that you're not getting, and wonder, do they even know you need it? Do they even know what you're up against? And how do you have that kind of a conversation? Now, managing yourself. We have, as I said, very few people in technology that are what I would consider good mentors. What we have are an awful lot of tormentors. We have people in management who don't deserve to be leaders because they don't know how to treat people, they don't know how to control themselves. And yes, I get passionate about it because I've seen it time and time again. So think about that scenario where Virginia called me into her office as some young kid where I'd made a mistake, and if she had jumped up and down and yelled and screamed and beat her chest and made me feel this big, what would that have done to me? What would I have done for her next? Probably gone and looked for another job, right? I would have left. Now there's a whole other backstory to that whole situation where we ended up very successful with what we were trying to do. But it comes down to recognizing what is it that we're trying to accomplish and how am I behaving in this moment? When a problem arises, how am I reacting? I used to get called when we first started working with Bell Atlantic. I used to get called to jump on conference calls where people were just yelling and screaming and all hot-headed. And I never knew that I had this skill until I got thrown into this, but I would jump on these calls where everybody's yelling and screaming, and the first question I'd ask is, what are we trying to accomplish here? Silence. And it's all about managing your emotions and focusing on what are the right things to do to move forward. And so you've heard all about emotional intelligence, right? That's kind of what this means, recognizing yourself and how you're reacting in the moments, especially moments of stress. And then build a great relationship with people on your team. Get to know them as human beings and what motivates them and what they're going through at home. What are the things that are happening with them? Because that will build loyalty. So when you start managing your relationships and managing how you're reacting to people, you will build a team that is loyal to you. So I want to land with this. And this is all about your presence, this concept of a command presence. So rule number 1 is, how you see yourself is absolutely a product of how you talk to yourself. Have you ever paid attention to the little voice in your head and all those things it says to you all day long? Oh, you don't know what you're doing, this is stupid, no, that looks ridiculous. There's all kinds of negativity going on in your head, things that you would never say to another human being, but you're saying it to yourself all day long. Tune into that. Tune into what you're saying to yourself and shut it up. And it will take a long time, and you have to recognize it and stop it. But we all have those voices of doubt and fear and uncertainty in our heads. We all have it. How do you shut it up? Because how you see yourself is going to drive how other people see you. It will drive how you behave. It will drive how you stand. It will drive how you present yourself. It will drive the words you use. It will drive just when you walk into a meeting, where do you sit? Who do you say hello to? So it all is driven from you, internal, of how do I make myself confident in who I am? How do I build my credibility with myself so that I can then build my credibility externally? And all of that takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of introspection, and it takes some quiet time. And most of us don't allow enough quiet time for that to happen. So it all goes back to this lesson of don't be afraid of failure, accept it, and figure out what did I just learn. And with that attitude, and working on how you pull those lessons out of other people, and help other people see those lessons in business, all of that will help you become better and better as a leader. So I'm ready for whatever my next lesson is, and I hope you guys are too. Randy tells me we've got just a couple of minutes for questions, and I'm going to learn from what happened with Brian this morning. The person who asked the first question can have a copy of my book. So who's it going to be? Daryl, go ahead.
Yeah, speaking with some CIOs recently, one of the things that they displaced CIOs who are in transition is that they were taught in school, don't build relationships with your subordinates. And now, as they're in transition, they're reading books and listening to things, they're hearing differently. And when they were told it was a risk, you don't want to get too close to those in your work. But elaborate on that, because that was one of your last points.
You know what, it's really funny you said that, because we just actually busted up a team that I was on, And one of the folks who worked for me looked at me and said, "This is great, now we can be friends." Right? Now we can be friends. And so you do build relationships with your team, but you have a certain distance. It's about business. It's about how do I help you, how do you help me? It's what are the things we're trying to do together as a team. You really don't want to get involved in, you're not going to be the godfather for their kids and those sorts of things. You don't want to build that level of friendship. When you have that level of friendship, then there's always that pull of how do you balance the personal and the professional. So there's a whole lot of things you can do in terms of building relationships with people that don't cross that boundary. And so I would caution that it's really difficult to get anything done in this day and age without building relationships. So, thank you for the question. Yes, sir.
One of the first things you said was do less.
Yeah.
So, and I keep hearing that. Can you talk a little bit more about in doing less? Does that mean we're going to leverage our time or accomplish more? Because I recently heard somebody say that leaders or entrepreneurs should be doing less and less and earning more and more, even more than that. Is that what you mean by that?
Well, you know what? There's an awful lot that will hit your plate from other people, right, and other people's agendas, whether it's phone calls, emails, hallway requests, conference calls, what have you, that don't need the same weight as some other things that are on your list. And sometimes those things just age off your list and never get done because they're not the priority, right? So you're constantly thinking about what are the results and what are the things that I need to do to deliver those results. And some of the other stuff that's not quite so important will just fall off, or you find someone else to do it, right? If they really are a priority and you don't have time to do it, you figure out with the resources that you have available to you, how do you get someone else to do it, right? In some of the entrepreneurial things that we do, we leverage a lot of things on Odesk and Fiverr and people like that, because it's like, I could create a logo, right? I know how to use Photoshop, but am I going to do that? No, I'm not. I'm going to go hire somebody else to do it. And so it's being smart about what are the things that are most important for you to spend your time on. And, I just weeded through, I had this huge to-do list of where I just keep track of everything. And I just weeded through it and it's like, do these things really need to be done? No. Things have changed, the business has changed, the environment's changed, these are no longer important, cross, right? And so that's really what you need to do, is to start thinking about what is the end result that I need to achieve and what are the things that I need to do to feed that. Does that help?
Absolutely.
Okay.
One more
question. Okay.
I'll give you my book if you have a question.
That one?
Matt wants my book.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what are the biggest challenges you face as a manager, as a leader?
To be honest, it's getting senior leadership to recognize that people development is important. It's recognizing that we have to stop worrying about what are the things we're working on and how do we get the people to work on those things and how do we be better at helping those people. To me, that is the biggest challenge.
And it's odd. I will say that in my experience, it's odd that the biggest organizations are sometimes the ones that are hardest to show the value of that, and they're the ones who have the resources to actually do it.
Yeah.
And so it's a crazy marriage there. A lot of it, in my experience, has been driven by the fact that these companies are publicly held and they're beholden to a quarterly earnings statement every 90 days.
Yes.
And if it's longer than 90 days out, I might not really care about it. So there's this 90-day referendum every 90 days, and it's a real problem. It's a problem in our business right now that everything can be very short-term focused.
Yes.
I don't know if you feel the same way.
No, absolutely. I've seen that working in a public company. I don't see it so much at a private company.
Yes.
But you still see that same dilemma of I'm focusing on this thing that I need to do, right? That's going to impact the bottom line and not necessarily on that touchy-feely stuff that's going to help us get better.
It is a little bit of a risk because it may pan out today and it may pan out next year, it's a little risky.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. Okay, I know we're out of time, but guys, thank you for your time this morning and your attention. I enjoyed being